Welcome back, everyone. Next up, we have Searchlight Resources Inc. It trades on the OTCQB under the symbol SCLTF and on the TSXV under the symbol SCLT, and is a Canadian mineral exploration and development company focused on Saskatchewan, Canada, which has been ranked as the top location for mining investment in Canada by the Fraser Institute. Exploration focus is on battery minerals and gold throughout the province, concentrating on projects with nearby infrastructure. Please welcome the chairman and VP of corporate development. We have Alf Stewart. Welcome, Alf. Nice to see you today.
Thank you, Anna.
All right, we'll begin with the video.
Hey, you ever put that fucking thing down? You know, the one you've been scrolling TikTok on for the last hour and you're just realizing it now? Well, inside that phone is something called rare earth elements. Ever heard of them?
I don't think so.
But you should, because without them, you can say bye-bye to scroll. And not just that. You can say bye to this, and even fucking this without rare earths. And right now, these metals are in short supply. That's what we call a fucking problem. So thank God for the guys with the solution. Searchlight Resources, this is a must-watch exploration company focused on finding these bad boys in Saskatchewan, Canada. Why there? Why not? Low risk, world-class rocks, pretty simple. The project, Culloch Lake. Similar deposits to what's at Culloch have generated billions of dollars in market value over the past decade. And with a management team that has over 150 years of experience, that's more than Yoda had with his lightsaber, it's safe to say these guys know their game. Searchlight's $6.6 million market cap is looking like a small-town ball player with the potential to go to the league. When compared to some of the big boys with projects right beside, there's just one thing that's clear. Growth potential, baby. You know the drill.
Okay, you're live.
Welcome, everyone. Hope you enjoyed that little intro. I'm Alf Stewart. I'm the Chairman and VP Corporate Development for Searchlight, and I'd like to thank the organizers of the Emerging Growth Conference for inviting us to present today. We're very pleased to do that. Searchlight has just recently listed on the OTCQB in the United States. This is our very first video presentation in the US. That's very important to us because in Canada, we're dealing with a much smaller audience. So we welcome the opportunity to present. First, I must advise you through a disclaimer that we're talking about forward-looking information and things may not go according to plan. So we must provide this disclaimer legally to tell you that you are warned that we're going to be talking about future events which are uncertain. What is Searchlight's value proposition? Well, it starts with our management. We have over 150 years experience in mining, and we are unique in our value proposition. Our management is headed by Stephen Wallace. He is a brilliant CEO geologist who has been working, developing a portfolio of projects in Saskatchewan. And he, along with our board, have over 150 years experience in mining and finance. I think you'll find very few companies that have the level of expertise and experience that we do. Through our careers, we've been involved in multiple discoveries in the mineral sector, and we're now focused on critical minerals, which are minerals that go into batteries, as Anna said, but also drivetrains, wind turbines, etc., as we'll get into. What is the difference about Searchlight compared to the hundreds of other companies looking for discoveries? Well, first of all, we're at the pre-discovery stage. And if you're going to invest in mining, you must know that money is made through discovery. Discovery happens at the drilling stage. And Searchlight has 5 projects that we have curated over the last 5 years, and we're now at the drilling stage on 5 different projects in Saskatchewan. Our projects include Culloch Lake, which is rare earths and uranium, Doddridge Lake, which is uranium, cobalt, vanadium, and copper, Reef Lake, which is nickel and platinum group, Hansen Lake, which is the lithium group of elements, beryllium, cesium, and lithium, and Wapaweka Lake, which is copper, lead, and zinc. And these are all critical metals with the exception of gold. This is Saskatchewan. What's the big deal about Saskatchewan? Well, first of all, we're focused on the northern half of Saskatchewan, which is part of the Great Canadian Shield, which is rocks that are 2 to 3 billion years old and are very rich in certain elements. In Saskatchewan, one of the key elements is uranium. There are multiple uranium mines producing in northern Saskatchewan, and the uranium grades in Saskatchewan are 10 times higher than anywhere else in the world. It's truly an exceptional area for uranium. In addition to that, Saskatchewan has one of the largest production areas for potash in the world. And thirdly, it has a belt of rocks which host one of the richest deposits of copper and zinc in the world around the Flin Flon area, right on the edge of the province, bordering with Manitoba. So Saskatchewan, as Anna mentioned, is the top-rated jurisdiction in Canada for friendliness to mining industry. It's a very important industry within the province, and it encourages mining. So that's very important to us. But also, Saskatchewan's just not number one in Canada. Most surveys rank Saskatchewan second in the world, only second to Australia. The state of Western Australia is ranked number one. So why Saskatchewan? Why is it rated so highly? Well, it's a safe jurisdiction, politically stable, free enterprise, democratic. You aren't likely to be expropriated in Saskatchewan. And this is important because right now in the critical elements business, various countries around the world have decided these elements are too valuable to leave to private industry, so they are nationalizing their ownership of critical elements. As an example, in Mexico, they've nationalized lithium. And Chile has said that they're going to do a quasi-nationalization if anyone wants to develop lithium in Chile, which is a major source of lithium in the world. They're going to have to do it with a joint venture with a government-controlled company. So that's not good for investors. That may be good for the countries. It's not good for investors. Saskatchewan is the other end of the spectrum. Saskatchewan is actively developing and encouraging private investment in mining. And we've been working there for many years, and we can tell you it's an extraordinarily good place to do business. However, it hasn't really been on investors' radar screen up until recently. So what are our projects? Well, we have a group of projects. As I mentioned, we have 5 drill-ready projects in Saskatchewan. Our flagship project is Kulik Lake. It is an exploration project for rare earths and uranium. And I'd like to say a word about rare earths. You saw in our little video intro that rare earths are used in cell phones. Rare earths are also used in the electric motors for electric vehicles, and they're also used in wind turbines for wind energy. So a typical wind turbine is about 3 megawatts in size, and each wind turbine uses 2 tons of rare earths. So with the mass adoption of electric vehicles and with the pivot to green energy generation with wind turbines, we are seeing soaring demands for rare earths. And unfortunately for the United States and Canada, our entire rare earths mining industry collapsed in the 1980s when China brought on very, very low cost production and basically put North America out of business. It's part of a larger trend of what we call offshoring, where China has replaced other industries in North America. And right now, over 90% of the rare earths in the world are mined and processed in China. But with China's growing demand for wind energy and electric vehicles, they are now reaching the point where they have to import rare earths, and the future supply of rare earths is uncertain. So rare earths are critically important in a number of industries, and we're looking for them in Saskatchewan. So Kulik Lake is our flagship project. We also have an advanced gold project near Flin Flon that I'll talk about. And we have a property called Doddridge Lake, which has a historic resource of uranium. And it also has cobalt, copper, and vanadium in association with it. And just keep in mind that our company, despite holding all of these projects, which we own 100%, only has a market valuation of $4 million US. And that's an extremely low valuation in the mining industry. Typically, if one makes a discovery, the potential value of a mining company could go up to up to $1 billion or more. So if you do the math, they take a $4 million market cap and know that you're looking for something that could be worth $1 billion. We have tremendous upside from here. Searchlight is looking for critical metals in northern Saskatchewan. Let's talk a little bit about why we're working in Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan has the only rare earths processing infrastructure in all of Canada. The Saskatchewan government has spent $50 million building a plant to process rare earths. And it's very important that they find a source of ore near the plant, because the rare earth ore is radioactive and you don't want to be shipping it all over the world. You want to get your source locally, load it onto a truck and take it straight to the plant. It's very expensive to transship from a boat to a rail to a truck. Each stage is difficult when you're dealing with radioactive ores. They're considered to be Class 7 hazardous materials. So we're looking for rare earths to supply the rare earths plant in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. This is the mineral we're looking for. It's the rare earth host mineral called monazite. It is the most common rare earth mineral in the world that's used for ore. And it's interesting because it's like a car. A car has a passenger or a driver and several passengers. And in the chemical formula for monazite, you can have any one of 17 different rare earths in the formula. On our property, we are mainly dealing with the magnet metals, neodymium and praseodymium. And the mineral also contains thorium. And this is a problem because thorium is radioactive. So monazite is important. You want to be involved in an area that allows you to mine radioactive ores. And as I mentioned at the very beginning, Saskatchewan is one of the major uranium producers in the world, and it has the expertise and social license to allow mining of radioactive ores. Other provinces in Canada and many jurisdictions in the United States, you could not look for and produce rare earths because of the radioactivity and the environmental regulations around it. This is northern Saskatchewan, home of the highest grade uranium deposits in the world. The yellow area in the middle is the Athabasca Basin. And under this flat-lying basin, there are very, very high-grade uranium deposits. And there is a uranium mine and mill right here at a place called Key Lake. And that is only about 30 miles from our main flagship property called Kulik Lake. If we find uranium and rare earths sufficient to produce, it is conceivable that we could ship our ore to this mine for processing and then south to Saskatoon to be refined. This is an ideal structure for mining operations. Kulik Lake has some of the highest grade rare earths in the world. We have received assays of up to 56% total rare earths. Many people aren't familiar with the grade of rare earths and what's important, but typically anything more than 1% rare earths is considered economic grade. We have two other properties for rare earths on the other side of the Athabasca Basin up here near Uranium City. Those are also promising. Here's our Kulik Lake property. It is a huge property. We have a scale here that shows 10 kilometers long. That's for Americans, that's about 6 miles, that bar there. So this property is more than 20 miles long. It has multiple rare earth occurrences. It's never been drilled. We've picked it up by staking from the Saskatchewan government, and we own it 100% and royalty and payment free. Let's now look at our other project. This is a picture from Saskatchewan from our bootleg property, looking at the community of Flin Flon. Flin Flon is a major mining center. Our property is just a few miles outside of Flin Flon. In Flin Flon, there is a zinc smelter. There is a 5,000 ton a day mine and mill. There is a tailings pond. There are a couple of thousand people to support the mining industry. There's all kinds of services available. To operate close to a major mining structure gives us significant cost advantages compared to anywhere else. So that's the point of this slide. Our project is very, very close to Flin Flon. So what's going on around Flin Flon? Flin Flon has historically been a major area for copper and zinc production And there are numerous former gold producers around Flin Flon that operated up until about the 1980s. And basically in the 1980s, gold prices dropped down to below $300 an ounce, and most of the mines around Flin Flon shut down. Gold is now $2,000 an ounce. So we are seeing a revival in interest in gold around Flin Flon, and we have been acquiring properties there for 5 years. And this has become a very, very major property for us. But our property is also very, very prospective for copper and zinc. And we've also been looking at the copper and zinc potential in this area. So we've accumulated land around Flin Flon in the down market cycle, and we're now poised to benefit from it. And we're going to show you the incredible infrastructure that we've picked up for almost no cost. This is the map of the area I just showed you in the picture. Here's Flin Flon. This is the border between Saskatchewan and Manitoba. And our main property is right outside of Flin Flon. It's this property here. It's called the Bootleg Lake Gold Property. And we have another property here that's called the Flin Flon North Property. And we have a third property here called Robinson Creek. All of these properties are part of one potential mining project. If we find ore on any of these claim groups, it could be all part of one larger mining operation. And that's what our strategy is to find something bigger than has ever been found in Flin Flon before. Here's a picture of a former operating mine on our property. There are actually 4 former producing mines on our property. We have the Bootleg Lake Rio mine, the Henning Maloney mine, the New Core mine, and we have another property that's not shown on this table called Weecatch. There are historic resources of gold in the ground sitting on our property undeveloped. So the summary for Bootleg Lake, it's located less than 10 kilometers from a world-class mining center. We have consolidated multiple gold deposits into one large project. It's located in the Flin Flon Snow Lake Greenstone Belt, which is a major source of copper and zinc mines in historic times. There's over 30 copper zinc mines that have been developed in this area. And we have the potential to drill in this area in the near term. But there's more than that. This is an air photograph of the area that I just described. These green dots are the historic gold production areas on our property. This area in the north middle of the slide is a large tailings dam. This is where there is a 5,000 ton a day mine and mill that is already built, and it is shut down and it is empty. So if we make discoveries here, we may not have to go to the trouble and expense of building large infrastructure. The infrastructure is already there. In addition to the infrastructure I just mentioned, there is electrical power, water, and rail service. It's ideal for mining situation. This is our property in detail. In the 1980s, a very large underground development was done. We estimate the cost of this underground development was about $5 million, which is approximately the entire market cap of Searchlight. And we have acquired and we own this development infrastructure. At the present time, this is closed down and flooded, but we could pump out the workings and actually reestablish commercial production. This is a picture of the historic development of the mine at the Bootleg Lake property. It shows the mill, which is no longer on the property, the access to the underground workings, the ramp, and the tailings dam. And this was all developed when gold was under $300 an ounce back in the 1980s. And basically the property hasn't seen any commercial development since then. Searchlight went into the area in 2018 and drilled under those workings that I've described and hit gold, and shows that the gold structure continues through the underground workings and continues at depth. This is our 2018 drilling. Short story, we hit gold in every hole. This is another gold mine on our property. This was mined in the 1930s. It's called Henning Maloney. We have found pieces of high-grade gold ore around these old workings. This is another property in the Flin Flon camp. There are over 70 drill holes here. There's never been a historic resource calculated for this property, but we see the potential to just reinterpret these logs and develop a significant gold resource as part of our gold project at Bootleg Lake. This is only about 8 miles away. Some of the intercepts historically were 55 meters of 2.5 grams of gold, starting just 20 meters below surface, which is about 20 yards depth. That's very, very shallow. So we see the potential for a large open pit type of gold deposit right here at Robinson Creek. The cores from the historic drilling are sitting on the property at Robinson Creek. This is the stack of historic cores. We could probably reassay, relog, and reassay a number of these things at a very low cost. Okay, so Searchlight has 138.5 million shares outstanding. It's trading at 4.5 cents Canadian, which is just under 4 cents US. So our market cap is about $4 million US. And the infrastructure that I just showed you in terms of drilling and underground development and historic work is worth much more than our current market cap. And we have about $1.5 million cash in the bank and no debt, no significant obligations other than just running the company. So that concludes my presentation. I'll turn it back over to Anna for questions.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Alf. We do have some questions for you. So have there been or are there any significant incentives from the governments of Saskatchewan and Canada to help in the development of critical metals or gold?
Absolutely. There are a number of things. First of all, the Canadian government introduced a new tax credit for companies involved in the exploration for critical metals, and that amounts to about 15 cents on the dollar spent. Saskatchewan government in their last budget also announced another 15 cents on the dollar investment tax credit for critical metals. So that's 30 cents on the dollar. And they also announced direct grants for drilling in Saskatchewan for either gold or critical metals as part of their budget. So the government is providing direct cash incentives to help us out in exploring for critical metals and gold.
And Charles asks, you said you're at the pre-discovery stage. So talk about the timeline that your drilling will produce results. And from there, what is the timeline to certify the results and begin production?
Okay. Our 5 projects are ready to drill. We intend to drill projects starting in the winter. We are going to go through a summer of exploration preparing for drilling, and it's our intention to drill next winter. So drilling in the next year. Beyond drilling, that's when the discovery is made. Drilling is the litmus test for major discoveries. We have a lot of mineralization where we're drilling below known high-grade gold and high-grade critical metals. And the typical time frame to get results is usually about a month or two after drilling. The time frame from discovery to actual cash flow in the mining business can be up to 10 years. But the value increase happens at the drilling stage. So we're at the fun part of the business cycle where our market cap can go up dramatically from 5 million to more than $100 million. And that is the fun part of mineral exploration. That's right where we are now.
I bet. Melissa Barnett asks about uranium, potash, copper, lithium, and zinc. So are these your targets across all of your projects?
With the exception of potash. Potash is in southern Saskatchewan, and we don't have any potash projects, but we have several projects that have uranium. We have several projects that have rare earths, and we have copper, lead, zinc projects. We have a couple of those as well.
And Rich asks, how are you currently capitalized and how much money will you need to raise in the market to get to production?
Searchlight's an exploration company, and our business strategy is to make the discoveries, outline how large they are, and then sell them to an existing mine company. So we probably won't take our projects to the mining stage because our expertise is at the discovery and exploration stage. So the time frame for our development is basically to discovery and then sale, and that will be between now and 5 years from now.
And a follow-up, with the current 5 million market cap, what do you expect dilution to be?
We're hoping to have very minimal dilution because governments are offering direct grants for exploration, and we're hoping to do non-dilutive financing and or joint ventures without significantly diluting our share structure. That's one of our key focuses.
And Corey Parks asks, when you say you own 100% of the projects, can you describe that in more detail? Like, are the properties leased? And if so, for how long?
Yes. So the way that mineral tenure works in Saskatchewan, and that's how you describe mine ownership, is mineral tenure. Saskatchewan does land releases from government-owned land. You then stake the property by claiming it in a computer program. You pay a small fee to the government. You then own the property as long as you continue to invest in it. And so as long as we continue to spend money on our properties, we continue to own them 100%. So we have been collecting properties in Saskatchewan for 5 years. We have now over 1,300 square kilometers of wholly owned land that we own. And we don't make payments to third parties on that. We simply maintain them by spending money on the properties.
And Lou wants you to talk about the process in acquiring these properties. How does that work?
Well, the Saskatchewan government announces that it's going to open land for staking on particular dates. Then everybody gets together on their computer at the stroke of 9 a.m. and they all click on the button to pick the property they want. And depending on who claims it first, that's who gets the property. So we've been in this process for over 5 years, and we have collected one of the most significant portfolios in the entire province.
And are you near others that are producing?
Absolutely. This picture in the background in Flin Flon, that is a major mining production area. Our flagship Kulik Lake property is 50 kilometers from a producing uranium mill. And what's interesting about that is the mill was built to process ore from the Key Lake mine. The Key Lake mine is exhausted, so the mill complex, the whole mining infrastructure is sitting there, and it has no direct source of ore. So we have a uranium mill that we could use that's near our property, and there is a base metals mill that is near our Boot Lake property. So we've strategically located our properties close to infrastructure such that we may not have to make the major capital investment involved in developing a mine.
And Lou wants to know, what is the financial aspect behind your acquisitions? Are you using stock or cash? And if leased, how are these leases structured?
Well, as I say, our CEO has been collecting properties through these staking programs in Saskatchewan, and he basically buys them on our credit card. You know, we're not talking about huge expenditures. We're talking about $5,000 to acquire 100 square kilometers of land. It's trivial, the amount of money that we spend to acquire it, but to maintain it, we must continually explore these properties. But having said that, this is one of the lowest cost areas in the world to acquire mineral properties, and that's what makes Saskatchewan so attractive to mining executives.
I bet. Rod Smith asks, what verification or certification are you using to validate discoveries? And are you only discovering government-owned properties?
We have, the majority of our properties are from the government. We have 2 properties that we have acquired privately. And in terms of how we are verifying this, we follow the regulatory regime in Canada. There's which says that all of our public information must be put out by certified professionals called professional geologists who are accredited engineers. All of the results must be processed in certified labs, and there is a very high, rigorous standard for verification of results in Canada.
Can you talk a little bit about the infrastructure around your properties, power, roads, and water?
Yes. Well, it couldn't be any better. In this main project at Bootleg Lake, there is roads, there is water. We actually have a municipal water supply that is within a distance of our mine. That's very, very unusual in the mining business. So all of the infrastructure that you would need to mine exists. And our main project for gold is a brownfields property. So it isn't like we are despoiling virgin forest. We're actually working on a property that's already had 4 producing mines. It's already a mining property. So there's very little impact to the environment from what we're doing.
Wonderful. Well, this is fascinating. Alfred, would you like to give us closing remarks, please?
Well, I'd just like to thank you again for this opportunity and to remind people of our value proposition, which is we're very, very low priced in the market, and we see tremendous opportunities for upside with our exploration.
I see that as well. Thank you so much for joining us. We'd love to have you back with some updates.
Thanks, Anna.
Okay, everyone, stay with us. We'll be right back with our next presenter.